Well, hello, everybody. Really good to have you here today in our lesson. Today, in our music lesson, what we're going to be covering and talking about is intervals in music. The interval is nothing more than the distance between two notes. And so we use intervals all the time in order to create harmony in music. Without harmony, music would be very bland. It would be very boring if all of us played melody. So instead, we want to add harmony, and harmony adds color to the music and it brings it alive. So to begin to understand harmony, we want to first go to a music website, which you know that I've used a lot, called musictheory.net. So when you go over to your browser, all you have to do is in the URL box, type music theory. It automatically pops up in my box, as you see. But remember, theory is spelled THEORY.net, N-E-T, right? And so you enter that, and it takes you to the musictheory.net webpage. And as we work on that webpage, you can see, obviously, the lessons, the exercises. For instance, under the lessons, you can go here. This website, if you're not familiar with it, is fabulous. It can start you at the very basic fundamental elements of music. You can learn the staff, you can learn what the clef signs are, how the clef sign names are derived. You can learn note names right from this very beginning. So this is the most foundational element of music, but it will advance through all of these lessons. If you carry them all the way through, will carry you well into your college years and certainly your college music theory. So it's a great website for all levels of music study. If you've forgotten the note names and what the note names are, you might want to start right here at this review. But we're going to be working in the exercises page, however. When you're looking at the exercises, the first one that we see at the top is this note identification. That's a great place to go. If you've forgotten the note names, simply open that page. And as it opens up, it's just going to carry you through and quiz you on a lot of different note names. Treble clef, staff, fourth line on the staff, we have a whole note. If you want to change any of the settings, you would use the settings button right up here. It's a gear right next to my picture. So you would click that open. And as you open that up, you have all of the different options to change. So you could change the clef sign by clicking on this, and you could pick any clef that you wanted to work with, including the grand staff if you're a piano player. You can adjust the range of the notes here by clicking the up arrow for the bottom note, down arrow for the bottom. Same thing for the upper range. So right now we're just looking at a middle C through the G resting above the staff. You see key signature options, so you could add in any of the key signatures that you wanted to utilize. You can use letter names, or you could use solfege if you wanted, movable solfege, and so forth. So a lot of different options here and ways to study your notes. Accidentals, I turn them off. You could simply click those on if you wanted to identify both sharps and flats. But for our purposes today, if you just simply know the note names, that would be sufficient. For instance, this is a C, right? Middle C. So you simply click on C, and it tells you whether it's correct and moves on. Now, I have some students who are so afraid of making a mistake, like the thing's going to blow up or something, and they don't want to touch it. But it doesn't hurt. It doesn't help you, though, just to start guessing. That was it. Nope, it's not a D. I'll just keep guessing until I finally get, oh, of course I knew it was a G. Instead, try to identify them using those review, or just a quick review of the tools that we use, some of the memory tools, the lines, we simply call them every good boy deserves fudge, and F-A-C-E for the spaces, in treble clef, and so on. So this is just a quick, real fast review on the note names. That isn't where we really want to spend our time today, though. We really wanted to get into the interval identification. So when we start looking at intervals, we can come down to this third tab. And when you open interval identification, I've already gone to the settings tab and changed it. See, when you open it up for the first time on your computer, this require quality is going to be activated. And that's going to be asking you if it's a major, a minor, a diminished, an augmented, and so forth. And for our purposes today, just to identify basic intervals, you want to make sure you go into the settings and turn that off. That way it's not going to be asking you questions about the quality of that interval, because that gets a lot more, it's a lot more challenging to do that. And there's some other steps that we're going to learn before you identify the quality of that interval. So right now, here we have it. The way that we identify an interval is starting at the bottom note. That note you have to count as 1. So we want to know what is the interval of notes from the bottom note to the top note. Well, in this case, they're both Fs. This is an F, this is an F. We call that, as you might remember, an octave. An octave is nothing more than octave standing for 8. That is an eighth. Now, as you're looking at that, before I just select that and go on to the next interval, we can count what that is. We can use simply a counting method. It's slow at first, but you'll get the swing of it. By counting the bottom note as 1 and counting each successive note as you ascend to the top note, as I'm doing with my cursor, you'll count 8. You have to remember the first note is counted 1 though. You can't start here and move to the first line, or the second line rather, the G, and count 1. Instead, the F is 1, G, 2, A, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is an octave. So you select octave and it'll automatically move on. Just like in the last exercise that I showed you, if you name the note incorrectly, it's just going to turn red and it won't advance until you identify it correctly. So in this case, applying the same method, simply starting with the bottom note, it's 1. You have to remember to do that. I've taught intervals for so often where students consistently end up with the wrong interval, and it's wrong by 1 count. And it's because they don't count the bottom note as the first. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's simply a fourth. In this case, gives you a new interval. And again, we apply that same method. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we have a 7th. And so on, and on you would continue. Now, there are some little things that you're going to get used to in looking at intervals. For instance, in this case, when you find them, they're both on the lines, right? This is 1, 3, 5, 7. You notice I just counted the odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7. And so this also is a 7th. They're both on a line. This, since they aren't both on the lines, we have 1st, 3rd, 5th, 6th. Or if you wanted to count each step, it's a good, safe place to start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a 6th. You'll get the swing of it really quickly, but you'll find that if you go too fast when you're identifying these, that you'll start to make those mistakes that are just common to every musician as we're first learning to identify intervals. But if you're patient with yourself, you'll get the swing of this in no time. Make sure that you take some time and fill out then the quiz at the end of the lesson, and you're going to be off and running. So good luck with this. If you have any questions, feel free to text me through our school website and through our Canvas, and I'll gladly answer any questions that you have. I hope this helps, and on we go. Great job today. Keep up the good work. Thanks.